they're a bit up and down, but yeah, I'm sure they'll get to grips with it later on.
Karen Bowman, it is, who's well, it's his usual spot, isn't it? And he's had to do so much work. That's part of what he does. That's the thing. It's his place to be up towards the front and do that work. Much like Lasse Norman Hansen in the second wheel with him.
And we were chatting a little bit earlier about British cycling and the effect and all the various squads that sit here. And if you haven't caught up with the news, it's the UCI Paracycling Road World Championships at the moment in Emmen in the Netherlands. And Dame Sarah Story successfully defending her title.
And the race that this is as close as it gets to her house as well. So, yeah, again, she knows this area very well.
On to Werner Low, the Category 2 climb. Dennis the Menace is out. 1.2 kilometers in length is this climb. So going into today's stage, Jacob Scott leading Dylan van Baarle in the King of the Mountains classification. Jacob Scott, 59 points. Dylan van Baarle second with 34. Dries de Bont third with 32 points. So we have points on offer for the first 6 riders over the top here. And on this next climb of Grange Spa, that is also a Cat 2. On Ramsbottom Rake, though, that's a Cat 1 climb. So this is where these climbs, Jacob's going to have to be very vigilant. I think if we start to see Dylan van Baarle go for it on these this first climb, then Jacob Scott knows he's going to have a battle on his hands.
He'll have to follow. He will. Because he's got a nice advantage. He's got a bit of a buffer, but it's not. It's certainly doable if Van Baarle wants to go. It's only a 15-point advantage that Jacob Scott has at the moment.
Expect to see the jersey of Jacob Scott moving up towards the front on this one. Again, he's got to be. So you can just see him on the left, just starting to move up. I think. I'd like to see Swift Carbon getting in front of Jake. They're going to have to work here as a team as they go up towards the summit here. Everyone's out. Beautiful sunny day. The battle for that green jersey. Matt Holmes here on the back for Madison Genesis. He's looking to worry Matthew van der Poel a little bit. He's got his teammates, got it very much under control, but they are defending this lead at 2:47. They haven't managed to extend it too much. The sprints jersey as well. For Rory Townsend, he's going to be super happy. There's 3 riders up there. All the points are going to go to this breakaway group on those intermediates.
Yeah, so that's a job done for Rory, really. He can just, I think, relax and, yeah, it looks like he'll take that red jersey home.
Fingers crossed. Vignevo, the man, as we said, he was up here in the breakaway group a little bit earlier on in the week, was Vignevo. We'll just double check if he's managed to take any points. He did, so he's only got 8 points in that competition, but perhaps he can move himself up. In the sprint classification, he took 3 on that one. The peloton are through the start of the KOM, and you can see just rolling a huge gear here. Niels Pollitt just coming up towards the front, and it looks like he's got a bit of a gear issue there. Niels Pollitt is talking into his radio, having
a bit of a mechanical.
Sometimes it just gets stuck in the top gear there, doesn't it?
I'm just trying to think, what Katusha are they on? Shimano?
Wow. Yeah, I don't remember.
Well, it used to be bomb-proof. It was bulletproof, wasn't it? The Shimano electronic. I'm having a few issues with it of late.
Yeah, unless he was just doing a bit of strength training or something.
A bit of an effort.
Activate the legs, but yeah, he was looking in quite a big gear there.
You can see this climb now really starting to bite. Emil Vignevo from Rival Readiness is looking good today on the climbs. Gabs Kaleig is just, you can see, fighting to hold this one as they go up towards the summit of this one. Huge crowds out to cheer the riders through here. And the expectations later on for Ramsbottom Rake, which is even more narrow than this as well.
Yeah, we just can't see the road, you know. It's like, yeah, it's amazing.
We go out on the climb. Dennis the Menace at the bottom. The Minions are out to cheer everyone on today as well.
Yeah, we've got them all today. Oh, and we got
Manchester B.
Manchester B.
Yeah. Making a beeline for the summit here.
He was buzzing, wasn't he?
Beeline's a little bit later on. Kern Baumann, who's just on the front here for Dylan Groenewegen. We'll see if we have anyone sprinting it out for summit points. Expect to see Jacob Scott from Swift Carbon starting to come through. So into the final few hundred meters or so now of this climb. This is the first of our King of the Mountains points of the day. And you see the flags now at the top. Will the Rewell Readiness rider just decide to ride through here? Will the breakaway riders let him have this one? There's the summit just ahead of us. So Clegg and Holmes here will be just mindful of this one. Maybe let Vignebo ride across the summit if he wants to take the points. And just keep the pressure on in this breakaway. That looks like that's what they're going to do. So Vignebo goes over the top here ahead of Matt Holmes and Gabs Clegg. So they take the points. And again, no sprinting there. Just keeps that time nice and steady.
Yeah, so now they're going to get back into the rhythm and yeah, squeeze it on and see how long they can stay out here.
Just see how narrow some of these sections are again here, and okay for the three leading riders, but again for the peloton, especially further back you go, you've just got to be wary and be careful.
A few riders on the back here that have been again on the attack so far this week. Rob Scott there, the teammate of Gabs Clegg. Lotto Soudal up to the front here. Teish Benoot in the centre of your picture.
You can see how grippy it is. The way that they're all mauling the bikes and throwing shapes all over the place.
Yeah, it didn't look that steep, did it? But then you see on there, I think, yeah, he said, yeah, Trentin's looking quite smooth there. So, but there's some shapes being made, as you say in there, Rob.
You've got to try and nurse yourself over these bits here. The riders at the back gives you a little bit something else to think about. Dowsett just on the back there.
And again, as it narrows down, again, it slows down at the back. It's that you can see riders trying to get on top of their gears, can't quite ride as smoothly as Kern Baumann on the front.
Yeah, the guys in here, they'll be coming to a standstill later if it's like this on the Ramsbottom Rake, and yeah, they're going to have to be careful. There is a handrail on the side of the Ramsbottom Rake climb, so maybe they can just grab on that and have a minute while they
you might find riders have got one arm longer than the other when they finish. But with it's typical British racing, isn't it? Short, sharp climbs that can catch you out if you're not careful.
Ethan Vernon, just the rider here wearing 95. Alex Edmondson alongside him.
Edmondson back on after his puncture.
Mitchelton Scott, what a great rider that they did yesterday, putting Cameron Mayer into that breakaway group to try and steal the general classification. Just see Vignebo is looking for a drink at the front, so if his Readiness team car is not already with him, then he'll expect they'll get that up to him. But again, if the team car's not with him, it's going to take a while to get past him.
Yeah, he won't be able to get past here on these narrow roads, so he'll have to wait until they get out, and then he's got a bridge of 3-minute gap there, the team driver. Yeah,
he's going to have a lot of weight, and that's where the Victoria Neutral Service comes in, up towards the front.
Or Chris Lillywhite.
Chris Lillywhite,
he's neutral service today. He's feeding all three of the riders.
There you go. And that's the thing, isn't it, with this sport? Everybody looking out for everybody else, because the thing is, that you will, because you know that on any other given day, it might be your team who needs servicing from one of the other squads.
And it doesn't get forgotten as well.
It's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah, when you're out on another race, and it's easier here where you've got two team cars. Sometimes when you get into this situation and you're out in a race, especially smaller teams or on different races around the world where you only have one team car. So if you have to go up to the break to service your rider, then you've got no one servicing your guys back in the peloton. So normally as you you know, in that situation as well, you would just have a word as you go up with the other sport directors and just say, I'm going up to the break. Will you look after my guys if I need anything?
Yeah, and that's probably what Chris Lillywhite's doing there. You know, the other team directors will just be either sitting in the peloton, and then Chris will just look after everyone.
Yeah, it's all reciprocal.
The crowds are out, the sun shines out. 2:46 is your time gap. 123.8 to go. We're going to take a short break. Back soon.
It's rubbish. Yeah, if I... It was wrong.
Ooh. That's yours?
No.
Welcome back to the 8th and final stage of this year's OMO Energy Tour of Britain. There is your man, Mathieu van der Poel, in that green leader's jersey. What a race he is having. 2-stage victories already this week. Took a stage victory yesterday on the top of Burton Dasset Country Park. Alongside him, Dries de Bont, faithful teammate. He's done a huge amount of work, as Van der Poel's teammates are doing this week, to keep him in that jersey. The 12-second advantage that Mathieu van der Poel has over Matteo Trentin should be enough to run out the winner of this year's race. Confirmation of your King of the Mountains result at Wernigerloh. Emile Vignebeau takes that from Matt Holmes, Gabs Calais. Baumann, Norman Hansen and Janssens lead the peloton over the top.
Where was Jacob Scott there? What's he doing?
Day off.
Jacob Scott not taking any points. So an interesting one there. So Jacob Scott not taking any points on that one. And there you have it. National champion Alice Barnes alongside, just out cheering the race as they go past. Good to see the British national champion out there, double national champion, time trial and the road race this year.
Yeah, it's good to see that. That's one of my brother's coach riders there. So she's yeah, obviously listening to my brother, and she's not even pedaling.
Not at all. She's had again phenomenal season. I think Dean's done again great job in just getting some of the bits and pieces and helping her move forward this year. Yeah,
you see, worked really close with her. Even been looking some work on a time trialing and things, which has improved. And yeah, I think if you can time trial as well, you can win some big bike races.
That's the thing. A lot of riders, they obviously you have the ability there, but it's just tweaking little things, isn't it? It's not. Sometimes it's so simple as well when it's actually explained to you. Well, why don't you try this, and you go, actually, yeah, no, that makes sense. But until it's actually kind of been highlighted, it can be so easy to just get on and carry on doing and making the same mistakes week in, week out.
Yeah, because she is a racer, you know, so she probably wants to just always keep racing. So some days you need to, just step back to then move forward.
It's the backing off as well, I find, as a rider. That takes a little bit more bottle, and certainly when you're looking at from the track, Staley Vegas, we're going through here. But yeah, just that backing off and having the power meters, it's not just about pushing on and pushing forward. Sometimes you need that, especially when you're in a tapering phase, to actually back off and have that bottle to go, do you know what, I need a day off here rather than keep pushing on.
Yeah, that's having the confidence and the belief in yourself and your coach to say, right, yeah, well, this is the right thing to do in order to move forward and come out the other side stronger. So yeah, I still never liked a day off. It was always like, ooh, what do I do? And but yeah, it's needed at times, you know, in order to get things moving even better.
And again, that you see it now, and anyone out there that's watching, if they're a club cyclist or just a keen cyclist, sportives, you know, we've got all the big gravel enduros and everything like that, the growth of all the different parts of cycling, cyclocross and the track. Is investing in a coach and getting that sort of backing, is that, we talked a little bit earlier on in the week about bike fits and how much you spend on your bike and actually having a bike that fits you, but how important again is it to find that coach, and what should someone look for when they're trying to select that?
Yeah, it depends on your outlook, what you're trying to do, and budget obviously, but so many people want to spend their money on the kit, and I get that, I totally understand that. It's obviously good for the trade, and it's the shiny stuff that people want, but actually if you have a budget, an overall budget, and you're looking at a specific event or goals, then if you can kind of rein your budget in on the equipment side, just be sensible with it and invest a little bit in either a training camp or a coach, or just some advice if you can. That will give you a bigger gain than a new set of wheels or a new aero set of handlebars over your standard ones, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I said a lot of riders, they do sportives, some of them race, you know. So yeah, whatever the goal is, it's always good to have someone to bounce ideas off, and even not all coaches fully do all the planning, but it's just having someone there to chat back to. And like I say, I do a lot of mentoring within down in cycling with my brother, and he's the hands-on coaching and the data, whereas I'm just chatting to some of the youngsters who are coming up, mentoring them. I'll have probably ridden the race that they're going to going to be trying to do well in, and yeah, just general advice and passing the knowledge back down.
It's trying to give people a straighter line as well to their best performance. And we've all made the mistakes, and you do make mistakes on the way, but it's obviously listening to people and make fewer mistakes on the way, and that's what can really make the big difference.
Yeah, it's 20 years, 25 years of making mistakes.
The blind leading the blind, weren't
yeah,
we?
We've been on some teams together over previous years. I think '98 was our first
The
team together, and
eh?
we've made some mistakes, but we've had some great results, Robbie.
It's one of those, isn't it? If we knew then what we know now, and that will always be the case. But here we can see that the fast section down here through towards Staley Bridge, very quick roads. And there's a little bit of a pinch point down here at the bottom. Hopefully, people can just keep themselves off the road as they take this right-hander.
Yeah, they're going to go quick through here. It's great to see all the towns and villages making such an effort for the race coming through today. All those bikes up on the side. Matt Holmes just jumping back on to the group here. And I've just taken it. I will always take a pronunciation correction, and it's Vinjabo. I'm being told Emil Vinjabo. So my apologies to anyone might have offended with my pronunciation of that one, but Emil Vinjabo here from Rival Verdinez, can see him in that break. So it's always good to get a pronunciation correction.
Yeah, the Danish ones are hard. You know, I spent time with Cult Racing a few years ago, and some of the words and things were like, yeah, a load of the, you know, it is in a foreign team. They're trying to teach you some of the language, and yeah, it was all the stuff I shouldn't be saying. But we had some great fun there. I really like the Danish, and Rival Cycling's a really up and coming team that's looking to do bigger and better things next year.
Yeah, it's great. I'm very lucky. I've got Natalie on our graphics team, who's my Flemish vocal coach, and if she's listening to me, sometimes she'll just come up and go, "That's pronounced like this," and it's good to have. We've got a big Belgian crew here on the Emergency Tour of Britain, and they're my kind of. But sometimes they look at me and I say, "How do you pronounce that?" And they're like, "You won't get that." And it's the accents within the words. So we do our best, and I'll always take a correction. And I always say sometimes when you look down at a certain name and a certain word, you're just about to go and say it, and someone speaks in your ears, and your brain just
puts you in a spin. Yeah, I'll leave you for calling the names out, especially the hard ones. The guys I know, I'm all right with that.
Matt Holmes, getting a bit of chat here from Roger Hammond in the team car. They're just checking on Gab's colleague as well, just to see if he needs anything. You can see there's very much in this group. Emil Vinjabo was getting service from Chris Lillywhite in the car behind as well. So this point here, very important in terms of the chat with the team manager. They'll just be updating him with what's going on, how that chase is looking behind. Matt Holmes there in the Madison Genesis jersey, still the virtual leader on the road as this group, just the main peloton now descends down into Staley Bridge, as Rob said. Just a little mention as well. Some other, it's such a cycling area, this one. Thanks to Steve Lewis for your tweet as well. Some great riders from the area, national champions Dino Davey, Jeff Williams on the roads. Rob's pal Nick Craig in cyclocross and mountain biking as well. And someone again from the early days of mountain biking, Fred Salmon.
Fred the Fish.
Yeah, he was
the fish.
Again,
mad as a fish.
Fred Salmon. Again, he was from that sort of Dave Baker, Tim Gould era of the early days of mountain bike racing.
Absolute
so
box of frogs.
Great reminders of what an area that we were in as well. Hannah Maniton, thanks for your tweet as well, saying she's upstairs watching the Tour of Britain. Her husband's downstairs watching the Vuelta, because again, it's best Tour of Britain.
Yeah, she's picked the right one, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
She's done well there. Hope she's got a better TV.
Definitely, she's got the big TV. Our breakaway group 270, Matt Holmes still the virtual leader on the road. It's going to be a tall order to try and hang on to this one, but he's doing his best, and it's great to see someone going out here. We saw him try and do this yesterday, and Matt Holmes, the sort of rider that we would expect to go on the attack. 2 minutes and 16 seconds is your time gap. hang on in the OVO Energy Tour of Britain. Is he going to take the stage? Yes, he is!
Peloton rolled out of Warwick Racecourse for the start of Stage 7. Little did the riders know that it would virtually be a gallop all the way to the line. The teams wanted to put the green jersey under pressure and attacked from the off. At the first iceberg sprint of Berkswell, Van der Poel and Trentin fought for the time bonuses, with the Dutchman extending his lead by gaining the 3 bonus seconds on offer. A quartet looked like they'd broken free, but there was a swift counter and everything was once again back together. Team Ineos and Mitchelton Scott continued to apply the pressure to Corendon Circus, who had to call for more supplies and instructions from the team car. Finally, after 60 kilometres of racing, Dylan van Baarle and Cameron Mayer were allowed up the road. These two then rolled through the remaining sprints and Skoda King of the Mountains climbs, with Jacob Scott picking up valuable points by jumping off the front of the chasing peloton. Great crowds greeted the cyclists when they came through Burton Dasset Country Park for the first time, and were rewarded with a high five from one of Britain's greatest ever riders. Having seen the climb the first time, it all kicked off again after pass number 2. Van Baarle was eventually caught by a posse of 5, but they were rounded up on the final ascent. Then Mathieu and Matteo went head-to-head again.
Van der Poel lines it up now, 150 metres to go towards the line. Van der Poel is there, Trentin shakes the head. Van der Poel's going to go clear for another stage victory. Trentin didn't have it, holds his hand up. Van der Poel takes the stage again. Trentin, what can I do?
The two men shaking hands at the finish in mutual respect. The lead in the green jersey classification now extended to 12 seconds for Van der Poel, with only one stage remaining. Starting in Altrincham and visiting all 10 boroughs, the 3 Skoda KOM climbs could prove decisive, starting with Werneth Low, then Grange Bar, before the infamous Cat 1 climb through the town of Ramsbottom. The Rake, as it's more commonly known, could prove to be where the whole tour is won or lost. For those riders still left at the head of the field of the course, there's a final iceberg sprint at Horwich near Bolton to contest, before racing into the city centre with the OVO Energy green jersey winner crossing the line on Deansgate.
The 8th and final stage of the OVO Energy Tour of Britain, and finishing in Greater Manchester for the first time. Stage 8 passes through all 10 boroughs of the city, dotted with those short, sharp climbs. Let's look back to earlier on today, the roll out of Altrincham. Ahead of the riders, Mathieu van der Poel. 3 intermediate sprints, bonus seconds, 3, 2 and 1 on each of those, 10 seconds on the line. He had a 12-second advantage over Matteo Trentin going into the stage. From kilometre 0 though, it was Matt Holmes of Madison Genesis that went on the offensive, quickly joined by Gabs Calaig of Wiggins Le Col. Matt Holmes, an outside threat to the general classification. He tried yesterday, he'd gone into the stage 18th overall at 1:30. They were joined by Emil Vinjabo from Rebout Readiness. They built a steady advantage through the first intermediate sprint of the day, and it was the Madison Genesis man that cut his deficit to 1 minute and 27 seconds. The old ordinaries were out as they hit Werneth Low, the first Skoda King of the Mountains point of the day. Huge crowds enjoying what is a beautiful sunny day here for the final stage. On the climb, again, impressive crowds as the climb really started to kick a bite into the legs of the riders. Maximum gradients of 14%. It was Vinjabo that went over the top ahead of Holmes and Calaig. None of these riders a threat to the King of the Mountains leader, Jacob Scott, who had a 59 points lead in that competition going into today. Dylan van Baarle second with 34, De Bont third with 32. Some great land art, everyone making a huge effort as the race has gone through today. Next objective for the riders will be this sprint in Upper Mill. Here's confirmation of your leading group. Matt Holmes and Gabs Calaig, Emil Vinjabo, Danish rider, for revalve readiness. So Upper Mill will be the next sprint of the day, and that is coming up very, very soon. 107.7 kilometers to go. We'll expect Matt Holmes to be given the advantage here from the two breakaway riders. Vinjabo is 51st at 14:32. Calague is 68th at 26:26. So neither of these riders would benefit immediately from those bonus seconds. Matt Holmes, though, Rob, will.
Yes, if he can pick them up. Every time he picks something up, he'll potentially nip himself up just on general classification, just a little bit. We can just see the nature of the roads here at the moment, just up and down. It's been very tough racing roads up to this point. Just that constant wearing down process.
Fast sweeping roads for the riders. Kern Baumann on the front. This is helping Corendon Circus today. They had a very tough day in the saddle yesterday. 1 kilometre to go to the Upper Mill sprint. Gabs Calague leading out from Emil Vinjabo. Matt Holmes on the back here, just taking the opportunity to just grab some food out of his pockets. He will want to make sure that he takes maximum bonus seconds at this one. The gap is coming down, so you can see 17th in GC at 1:27. So those bonus seconds have moved him up a place. Great to see someone going on in search of those places and trying to move himself up in the standings. So Alex Camp is just ahead of him. If he can take some more bonus seconds, he might get up to leapfrog Ben Swift. Matt Holmes rides through to the front here. Calague and Vinjabo know that this man needs these bonus seconds. So again, in the breakaway group, there is just that respect from these riders. No one's going to challenge Rory Townsend for the Iceberg Sprints jersey. So they're going to go through. Matt Holmes now rolls through the line, takes another 3 seconds. So the Madison Genesis rider is gradually just eating into his deficit. So Vinjabo goes through, then Calague. That's behind. This is all helping Rory Townsend in that red jersey. So it's all about that final sprint.
Yeah, he's currently moving himself up nicely. And he's up to 14th place at the moment, as it stands, but obviously a lot to come. And this time will no doubt come down. But he's given himself a job to do, and he's just ticking them off one at a time.
Confirmation of your Upper Mill sprint. Matt Holmes from Vinjabo and Gabs Calague. 1:47 is that time gap. So the intermediate sprint classification. Townsend with 17, Van Baal on 14, De Bont on 13. We've got 1 sprint to go. So Rory Townsend will be hoping that these riders are still out here at Horwich with 42.9 kilometers to go. And again, just like Jacob Scott, Canyon DHB have got to be very vigilant here that Dylan Van Baal doesn't take that point, because that would put them level.
Yeah, and this is the thing that goes to show when it's so tightly packed at the top for general classification and any of the other jerseys. I think Jacob Scott really, you just got to look out for it. And the racing, it's not done until it's done. It isn't over till it's over, unfortunately.
The peloton rolling
for us
through.
Anyway.
Yeah, the peloton rolling through. The intermediate sprint point there. And the teammates of Gabs Calague. On front, Mark Donovan, another rider that's stepping up to World Tour next year. It's Donovan, the team Wiggins LaColle, another of our domestic teams, unfortunately. That is not going to be around next year, but they're doing, again, they work so hard to try and feed their riders through. Donovan moving up to Sunweb, and Gabs Calague to Movistars. They're just trying to find homes for their other riders. again, we hope it's just a rebuilding phase for domestic racing in Great Britain, because as well as we look at the big picture, don't we, all the way around the outside, the Olympic success that we've had. You were a big part of that, and it's just grown and evolved. But you need a strong domestic scene, don't you? You need the legacy, for want of for a better word, of this event being that we see the British teams and the British riders in this race coming through, developing and stepping up to the highest level.
And that's the hard part, isn't it? It's your pyramid, basically the peak of your pyramid can only be so high. Obviously, the broader the base, the higher that peak can be. Otherwise, what happens is you get this very kind of unstable beast that we have, and it is difficult to keep the domestic scene alive. And as we've seen already this year with teams folding, and you look at the top end, and obviously we as a nation we perform at the highest level on every discipline in cycling, has to be said, but the domestic scene, the grassroots is very, very difficult. Participation is absolutely huge, absolutely through the roof. Bums on Bikes is amazing to see, and to seeing that grow from kind of back in the day when I was racing it through to kind of retiring, and just seeing the development and the evolution of cycling in the UK and on the UK scene is amazing. But yeah, grassroots it's difficult to keep that at a competition level.
I mean, when we were lads, the pathway was to go and live in France or go and live in Belgium and race for a team or a club there, try and catch the attention of the big teams, of the pro teams. And you know, there were certain riders of certain generations that made it until we got to that way the track program started to feed riders through onto the road. Do you think for some of the British riders that might be again to revisit that pathway and see if that might be a way to do it?
Yeah, there are as we go on to the climb here.
We're on to Grains Bar. This is a 2.4 kilometre climb, 5.5% average gradient. So the summit will come with 101.4 kilometres to go.
Yeah, and I think when you look in the past, you have had those characters who have made it without the kind of the system behind them. I think what the system has been able to do in British cycling and the world-class performance plan is basically take those riders who do have the talent but might not necessarily have found a way to get themselves there on their own. They've been able to give them a bit more of a pathway. And for those who don't make it on the British cycling scene, there are things like the Dave Rayner Fund that help riders, and there are a number of riders here. James Shaw, who we've seen, who came through that, got himself onto World Tour with Lotto Sudolic. He's off World Tour at the moment, but really performing here superbly well, and hopefully can get himself back into the top level. But the crowds that we're seeing, and that's the thing, you look at cycling as a whole in general, and the following is superb. It couldn't really get any better, could it? It's incredible to see, and we do see the crowds throughout the globe in world cycling. I think Colombia is probably one of the only nations as a little bit of well, it's good fun, isn't it, out there? And it's good to see people getting out but allowing the riders to do their thing, not getting involved as we do see on some of the other races.
Yeah, you don't want to be running alongside in your cycling shoes, because that could end in tears as well, definitely.
It can be expensive as well, depending on your pedal system.
The peloton start the climb. Kern Baumann, Lasse Norman Hansen, Jimmy Janssens very much to the front here. You can see some of the sprinters as well trying to move themselves up towards the front. Andy Tennant just on the back here from Canyon DHB, the road captain of that team. Bernie Eisel on the left there, so you've got Mark Cavendish right on the wheel. Mark Renshaw has latched himself onto the wheel of Mark Cavendish, and you saw him high-fiving everyone yesterday at the top of the climb. He got a great welcome in Pershaw for the individual time trial, and I think the way Mark Cavendish has been his whole career, he will want to repay his fans with them seeing him get his hands in the air again.
Yeah, it's what people come out for, isn't it? What they expect of him or have expected of him over the years. But just to be able to see these riders on the roads in the UK. We start to get to see it more and more, obviously, and well, in a couple of weeks we're going to see the world's best in a larger group right across the board, obviously, with the World Championships up in Harrogate.
It is going to be difficult to look beyond Mathieu van der Poel, Matteo Trentin, and the riders. Simon Clark could be an outside bet. You know, those really, again, Simon Clark, that really sort of gritty rider as well that could get himself up there. There's Jacob Scott in that Skoda King of the Mountains jersey. His teammates are in front of him, and this is what I was about to say on that previous climb. Swift need to look after him here. They can't risk Dylan van Baarle taking, especially Ramsbottom Rake. There's 10 points on offer here. Jacob Scott's got to go for everything. Was what you don't want to do is all that work you've done, all those kilometres in the breakaway, all of a sudden, it all just disappears.
Yeah. And the way that we saw Van Baarle climbing yesterday as well on that final circuit was good to see. Not as good for Jacob Scott, but yeah, he's got a nice buffer, but he needs to try and maintain that and keep hold of it if he can.
Some other good news I saw yesterday on social media. Rory Townsend, who you can see there in the red jersey, right in the centre of the peloton, the red iceberg jersey, selected for Ireland for the World Championships as well. And again, as we were saying earlier on the week, for Rory, getting in the breaks, showing what form he's got, and rewarded with a World Champs ride.
Yeah, and getting yourself on that team, getting your national jersey, and that's one of the things that not many riders get to do throughout their career, but to be able to ride for your nation and put your national jersey on. It's, well, steady away, and a nice lazy Saturday for one or two out there. Not so much for the riders. But
kicking back with a cold one.
Lovely. but yeah, to get to put your national jersey on, your nation's jersey, and perform for your country, it's something quite special.
And again, this young rider here, Jacob Scott, really has shown himself as a real outstanding rider this week. The way he's ridden, he's been one of the most aggressive riders of the race the whole week. And will hopefully be rewarded with that King of the Mountains jersey that he came so close to winning a couple of years ago. Just had it snatched away at the end, but he's been very, very vigilant. It's been a very, very mature ride in defending that jersey and making sure that he runs out the winner of that competition. On Grains Bar here, you can see huge crowds out as the breakaway ride through. Emil Vinjabo of Rewell Readiness, he took maximum points over the first climb of the day. Holmes and Calais are along just on the wheel here, out of the saddle. They're going to let the Rewell rider look a bit ride through. For Matt Holmes, it's all about the general classification. He's been putting back bonus seconds. Look at the wind at the summit here. Very, very windy at the top.
Well, we were saying this at the start. It was nice protected roads with the hedgerows, but once you get up onto the tops here, where it gets exposed, and look at that wind, just trying to see the exact direction of it. Looks well, certainly coming across from the left. Is it in their face or slight tailwind? Difficult to tell at the moment.
Gabs Calais crests the summit of Grains Bar. He takes maximum points there. So Calais from Holmes, from Vinjabo. And then we'll see that sprint behind. Trio here. The gap has grown steadily, so the attack from kilometre zero, if you're just joining us today, the gap grew steadily at about 150, just over 150 kilometres ago, they were 1 minute and 30 up. With 135 kilometres ago, they were at 2:56, and you can see the gap now down a touch under 2 minutes now, 1 minute and 52 seconds. Mathieu van der Poel here, your overall leader. This is it's a good scenario at the moment for Corendon Circus. Matt Holmes up there, again, it shifts the focus and the attention away from Matteo Trentin. All of these bonus seconds that Matt Holmes is taking are all bonus seconds that Matteo Trentin's not eating into his lead.
There's Manchester in the distance. And, the loop, the anti-clockwise loop that these riders are riding to get themselves round and back into Manchester in a little while.
Dries de Bont nonchalantly just riding off the front here. The battle this week between him and Jacob Scott's been great. And De Bont third with 32 points. He'll want to move himself up in that competition. And for Scott, again, I'm sure we'll just see him get up towards Dries De Bont here, Koen Bouwman, because again, we saw Jacob Scott second day in that jersey, and he had a few points sort of stolen away from him right on the line, where he was just trying to not sprint too much, try and save his energy a little bit. But maybe we'll see a bit of a sprint towards the top. Not seeing that group on the line. Here we go. So De Bont takes that one ahead of Cavendish. Renshaw, rather, sorry. I was thinking, seeing something and saying something else. Apologies. So Dries De Bont.
Mark, just say Mark.
Just Mark, yes, sorry. So Mark Renshaw rides over the top there. For Jacob Scott, it's just, you could see there, again, mature riding. He's seeing that Dylan van Baal's not going for these King of the Mountains. He knows Dries De Bont it's going to take a lot for Dries De Bont to close that sort of gap.
Yeah, so just smart riding, because we've got the tougher roads to come, and he's happy to just sit back, lose a couple of points to De Bont, but his overall advantage not really diminished. And yeah, the fact that Dylan van Baal hasn't shown his face there, well, that's certainly good news.
It is indeed. On again, another fast descent, as we pointed out, Manchester in the distance. And ahead of us now on the route. So inside 100 kilometers to go off today's stage. Our gap is 1 minute and 57 seconds. Binjabo leading through the descent here. The marshal just slowing them down on the corner. It's a tight one. Again, big crowds throughout the circuit today. We'll see how this goes now as this race goes on. Anyone that's looked at the route today and looked at this one, Ramsbottom Rate, it's that last opportunity, really. If nothing happens on Ramsbottom Rate, then we know that we've got a bunch sprint on our hands.
Yeah. There could be a little bit of a depletion of riders at the back, but I can't imagine that they'll get to that climb. The issue is, it has to be said, the climb, it's a difficult one. It's a steep, 12% average over the 1.2 kilometres. But as Russ was saying earlier, Russ Downing in commentary, there is a handrail on the side for pedestrians. But the issue is, comes at the top's at 71.8 kilometres from the finish, and so had it been a little bit closer, had that been kind of, you imagine that climb with kind of 30k to go, as we see second on general classification. Mathieu Trentin just coming back from the vehicles. He's been back for a bit of a chat. May have had a natural break, but I'm surprised he hasn't had a teammate or two with him, just to ensure that he gets himself back in, that he doesn't have an issue.
Descending back through that group. We were talking a little bit earlier on about the pathway for riders. Gabs Killegg is a good example as well. He sort of rode for the SEG Racing Academy over in Bel. I think it's a Belgian team, SEG. But he went over there and sort of made his own pathway himself before signing. It's a Dutch team. My apologies, SEG Racing. But again, there's they do again an awful lot of development for riders and taking that route rather than, as people of tradition, sort of trying to go through that track system.
Yeah, and it's there are different ways of doing it, different angles to get to the same result. And for some people, well, that's the trouble as well in the British cycling scene, going through that track program. It's a closed program in that respect. It's a very small world, and difficult to get yourself into that. And then once you do get onto it, it has been difficult over the years not to kind of almost come institutionalized with certain riders. But yeah, to find yourself in groups, smaller teams, give you the opportunity to get in the bigger races. That's the other thing. It's all very well signing for these big teams, but it doesn't necessarily allow you to actually expose you to some of the bigger races, and that's one of the issues that you will find even on the domestic scene. Sign for one of the bigger domestic squads, but then you're just not put in front of people with a number on your back to show yourself.
So Rewell rider Emil Vijaybo again being fed and watered by the Team Wiggins Lacole team car. And again, doing a great job for the whole of the breakaway here. He's feeding his own rider. It might be that the Madison Genesis car has also gone back to the peloton behind. So now moves up and feeds his own rider. As we said, it's the sporting nature of this sort of thing which makes everything special. No director sportif wants to see a rider in a breakaway struggling for any sort of food or drink if his team car is not able to be up with him. Mathieu van der Poel is in that green jersey in this line. Bernie Eisel getting himself up here now for Dimension Data, so that kind of shouts that Mark Cavendish could be feeling good today. James Shaw on the back here for Swift Carbon, just looking for a bottle from the group here. Ed Laverick there, number 183. Back up to the front, they really have got this all under control here today. Have Corendon Circus, the team of Mathieu van der Poel. The gap just going out over 2 minutes, just slightly here on the 8th and final stage of this year's OVO Energy Tour of Britain. 166 kilometres. Matt Holmes, Gabs Calaig and Emil Vijaybo are your leading trio, going clear pretty much from kilometre 0. The highest placed rider in the general classification is Matt Holmes of Madison Genesis, but Mathieu van der Poel's team this week. Rob, it's been interesting to see this team kind of growing in stature again as this week's gone on.
They're right there, right at the forefront, aren't they? And the thing is, when you've got a rider like Van der Poel, you just deliver, and you almost punch above your weight because of that morale that you've got, and the fact that, you know, whatever you do, the amount of work that you put in, the chances are it's going to be delivered and repaid with a result.
Yesterday on the run into Burton Dassett, we saw the team. It was frantic. It's an understatement of the year. Yesterday, it was an amazing stage. It just went off right from the gun. But what was again interesting, and I think when you see the evolution of Mathieu van der Poel, was at the end. You know, not only did we see him kind of going with those early moves as well, but also at the end when he was isolated, he was picking his battles, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he had the confidence. He came from quite a long way back, but the thing was, he knew the climb. All the riders got to see the climb, obviously, and he was right up there, and he's got the performance there. He knows the legs are good, and he still thinks they're good today, and it can dip off, and riders kind of come up each day as they go through, and others you dip off your form, but he's got a nice buffer.
Inside 2 minutes. Gap 4.4 kilometres to go. Our next target will be the King of the Mountains at Ram's Bottom Break. To go, but there's lots of uncategorized climbs to come before we get to that point. You can see the Rewell Readiness car though, just trying to find his way up towards the front, and you can see that on these twisty roads that's easier said than done for the director sportive. He's got the bike going through behind, so he's just trying to get up to his rider at the front. Confirmation of your King of the Mountains result at Grains Bar. Gabs Calaig went over the top ahead of Matt Holmes and Emil Vijaybo. Dries de Bont taking 4th and 3 points. Lasse Norman Hansen on the front here. Riders at the back inside this 95-kilometre go point. We're into Rochdale, the 5th borough on the race routes. The last to host a Tour of Britain, having hosted the overall start of the race back in 2010. Rochdale, former engine house of the Industrial Revolution, was once one of Britain's wealthiest towns. Port and trading post. And the Rochdale Town Hall is a Grade 1 listed building. And rumour has it that Hitler was so impressed by Rochdale Town Hall that he had he been successful in the war, he was planning to move brick by brick back and rebuild it in Germany. The worldwide cooperative movement was also born in Rochdale. And a few famous locals include actress Anna Friel, Brit Award-winning singer Lisa Stanfield. Lisa Stanfield's from Rochdale. And star of stage and screen Grace Fields was one of the highest paid stars in the world in the 1930s. Matt Holmes still the virtual leader on the road here for Madison Genesis. But everything it looks at this point, Rob, that it's stacked against them.
I'm afraid so. As we've seen so many occasions this year, in fact, I was going to say this race, but this year, the breakaway goes out, gets clear, and on several occasions we've seen riders take virtual lead. Cameron Mayer well inside the green jersey yesterday even. But yeah, back into the race, it all comes back, and the fact that we just got that's up to this point, at least, on the finale, and just getting Van der Poel safely through the stage over this next climb, and then onto the racier roads, where I would imagine more of the sprinters teams will start to come to the fore and play a part in the pace setting.
Looking at this race so far, looking at the finishes that we've had, can anyone cope with Dylan Groenewegen? It's hard to look beyond it.
It's very hard. If it comes down to a flat running sprint, he's all over it, absolutely all over it. But he's got a task, and I think we might see teams just go on the offensive on this climb, just to try and put him under pressure. This climb, as we say, tops out in 20 kilometres. In fact, 19 kilometres from the top of the Ramsbottom Rake, and there, if they want to put Jumbo-Visma and Groenewegen under pressure, that's where they need to do it, or that's at least the first opportunity to do it. Get him on the back foot, but because it comes at such a long way out from the finish, is it something that they can use to their advantage and make it stick? It's a hard one.
Our breakaway group come to the front. As we said, it's difficult to look beyond Dylan Groenewegen in these sprints so far. It really has been pretty much the Groenewegen